Well, hey there, welcome back to Bill Selak Talks. My name is Bill Selak. This is me talking. And here we are continuing the Rise and Decline retrospective around my old punk rock band's second album, where I break apart the song, tell you a little bit about it, and then why do I do that? Well, I connect it to technology, education, or educational technology. Some lessons, some takeaway, some thing that has me kind of thinking. These are songs that I love, that I'm super proud of, that we never released when we were a band, and you get to hear them here. And you get to hear them and learn a little bit of something about the song and a little bit of something about an education something or other. So this song, it's called What Was Who? And at first glance, I thought about just completely skipping this song and being like, whatever, on to the rest of the songs. But there's something here. The more I actually thought about it, the more I realized there's actually a lot to learn from this song. It's a short song. There are no lyrics to it. How long is it? Let me open up. 15-second song, which for a punk rock song, plenty of time. I would not consider it a punk rock song. You'll hear it. Just like in the previous, where are we? How many tracks? This was track 7. In the previous 6 episodes, you hear me talk about it and then you hear the song. So like in the next podcast episode that goes live, you'll hear the song. It was one of those that started off, a little bit of backstory just for giggles. Started off as like, hang on, our microphone stand is having issues. And as Brent is fixing his microphone stand or broke a string, I don't know, whatever. Not that he really broke strings that much live. Some sort of issue. I just start noodling around with this thing, and for some reason, we thought it'd be a good idea to record it and put it on the album. And I think I actually understand kind of a bit more of that reasoning. So it's a silly song, it's a playful song. At the very, very end, Brent, our singer, goes, "Ooh, looks like Bill just got done telling me what was who." Anyone know that movie quote? Give you a little thinking time. Do you need a clue? It was Al Pacino in a movie. Does it tell us? Oh no, I thought I could just Google it in real time. Was it Scent of a Woman? Where he starts off, I thought it was a much bigger quote. I thought if I just typed in what was who, Al Pacino would tell us. And it's not. Carlitos Way, maybe? No, yeah, it was Carlitos Way. We were watching that back when Netflix had DVDs. And at the very beginning of that movie, there's like this really long epic monologue from Al Pacino. And I stood up in front of that judge and told him what was who. And so we would just randomly like add movie quotes into things, as you often do when you play in a band, or at least as I did and my bandmates did. So that's what that was, and that's all it was. And there's no singing and whatever. And so kind of first thoughts, I'm like, all right, how do I connect this and make this like a podcast episode where you're like, yeah, I'm an educator and Bill had an episode and that was awesome. And I was like, maybe it's just about giving a break, like a palate cleanser. You know, like you go to a fancy restaurant, as classroom teachers often do, a 5-course meal, and they're like, here's like sorbet. Or, you know, if you're a little bit fancier with like sushi, you'll have a little bit of the ginger, the pickled ginger. And the thinking, the way it was taught to me, and it might be completely wrong, was as like the palate cleanser, like between different types of fish or different meal like courses that you're having, a little bit of ginger, you get that really bright gingery punch in the face with the acidic pickled ginger, and then you're on to the next thing. So it's not like salmon's in your mouth and you switch like unagi, and then it's like, oh, the eel also tastes like salmon, right? The ginger like splits that up. So I'm like, maybe we talk about that, and it's like this intentional break, like a palate cleanser kind of thing. And I think it can be that. I think that's like a simple thing. But I think actually one of the bigger themes that I think educators need to be talking about more, and we need to be more intentional about it and own it in a way that's like grounded, and own it in a way where we really like share our expertise, that intentionally adding playfulness into learning is good. Intentionally adding playfulness into learning is important, And if we go even further from that, intentionally adding playfulness into lessons makes learning sticky, means you actually remember it. If you don't have any emotion attached to new learning, you retain about 10% of it, depending on like what research you're looking at. But if you can add some emotion to it, and this is where like project-based and problem-based learning thrives, is that students ideally most of the time, right, are invested in the thing they're making. And it's not just let me turn the next page in the textbook and do the task because it's next. It's this thing of like, it's stickier because you're making a thing, you're doing a thing, you're feeling things. And if you have those feeling things, those things we call emotions, then you're much, much more likely to remember the project, the activity, the learning that goes along with that. And on this podcast, I've talked about so many examples of my own learning where the things that stick with me from high school now, like, wait, what? Coming up on 30 years? Oh my gosh. Or even in my undergrad, which is now 25 years ago. When did this happen? Oh, man. But whatever. That makes me sad. Or does it? No, I guess we're okay. Because, like, it's better than the alternative of not getting older, right? Yeah. So the lessons I remember from that are almost always where a teacher or a professor did something silly or funny or interesting or something like surprising. So having those like sticky kind of aha moments. Dr. Ramsey Masalam calls them sparks. So when he does like high school chemistry or he's talking with ed tech grad students, he and I both teach at Concordia University Irvine in their ed tech master's program. It has a fancier name than ed tech, but you know what I mean. Not the point of this podcast episode. And we have a few different lessons and a few different courses around like the creativity spark, right? Like how do you get that thing where students are like, what? And I think that this song, this 15-second ridiculous song, is a reminder to me and hopefully becomes a reminder to you about adding playfulness into your lessons, into your class, into your schools, because that playfulness isn't just part of who we are and is how we learn. And if we listen to like Dr. Peter Gray, that play is the work of childhood, which is why Global School Play Day is such an important movement. Again, like not the general theme of this, but like there's an abundance of research that shows that play is important. And so kind of just adjacent to that, playfulness is so important. But like it makes learning sticky. Adding creativity is important. And being intentional about that, naming that to colleagues, naming that to students, naming that in your own lesson plans, that like we're not just being silly because, you know, like my favorite grade is still to teach a second grade. I'm not silly because I'm a second grade teacher and second grade teachers are silly. I'm adding playfulness because it's an intentional choice to make the learning sticky. It's a teaching strategy to make the learning sticky, right? It also, I think, like the career of being a teacher is a really, really hard one. And for me, a silly little song like this, a 15-second song, when other songs are, you know, have much heavier themes, it's a reminder that not everything has to be serious, but also it's a reminder that not everything has to be serious to be meaningful. Meaningful things can happen when they're silly. Meaningful things can happen when they're playful. And for me, that's one of those lessons that is so easy to forget because, particularly as a school administrator, like there's, I mean, just imagine right now, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you're able to, like, close your eyes for like 3 seconds and picture like a school administrator in a movie. Like every single one I can think of is like super uptight, or they do the opposite and they're like super incompetent. And there's not really like a middle ground. And so the idea of like not needing to be serious and still being meaningful, I think is something that we can talk about more. And then if you listen to this and you're like, yeah, heck yeah, then that's my encouragement to you, is to like be intentional about unbinding seriousness from meaningfulness. You don't have to be boring and serious to be taken seriously, to be professional, to have a meaningful thing. And like the other thing is that like the idea of spontaneity, right? I use this term loosely when I wrote the bass line for this. It's not a complex thing. It was just like, oh, microphone stand issue. And I'm just like noodling around on the bass. And then Marco comes in on the drums and plays just a ridiculous thing to do it, just to like fill time. I mean, I even had a whole episode about the MXPX song Chick Magnet and how he scats in that. That one was the same thing. It was like, oh, shoot, Tom broke a string. And then Mike on the bass starts playing his own thing. And then Yuri comes in and plays like a really cheesy swing beat. And then he kind of started singing. And it's arguably their most famous song. You know, it's that whole idea about spontaneity. And for me, I think this is actually the biggest thing we can do more of in education. And if you're looking, depending on when you're listening to this, like school may have just started or it's just about to start. If you kind of know your subject area and kind of know your grade level and like feel okay with it, my challenge for you, my encouragement for you is to be open to spontaneity and to like really listen to your students and like really trust your students. Because I think sometimes like the best learning, the best insights come from those unexpected moments where we can really listen to our students, like really listen to them, not just be like, oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, I'm writing that down for formative assessment. But like really follow their lead for where their curiosity is driving a lesson, and then be able to like take that energy and adjust your curriculum, your lesson planning, your like scope and sequence to fit that. Because momentum is a big, big thing. And if you can get students in your class excited about a thing, like ride that wave, like run with that momentum and adapt it. And really like, that's really what teaching is. Just so often we talk about it in terms of adjusting lesson plans to better individualize instruction. And it's talked about and modeled in terms of, here's my teaching I need to reteach. Here's my teaching I need to make it more challenging or less challenging, or I need to have like this accommodation for these students and like rethink and reframe the lesson to meet their learning needs. But it can be more than that. It can be so much more than just that. It can be about the like following the spontaneity of our students in a really exciting lesson. And when we do that, then suddenly it becomes this like, oh, that was a memorable lesson. That's a beautiful lesson. That's a lesson that our students are going to keep like in their hearts. And if it's in their hearts, like they're going to remember it. That's so cheesy, but it's true, right? So when you come across moments that feel either small or insignificant or silly or playful, those might be the real gems this school year. And I encourage you not to just gloss over that, but really be intentional about that and really leverage that to get your students more excited about the thing. And then also take that and leverage that to have you move beyond what is known and comfortable so that you can follow your students and their curiosities and have those lessons that really become memorable. And that's what learning is, right? It's things becoming memorable. So if we can do that, then, you know, we can play a silly song called What Was Who. So a little bit of business at the end. You just heard this episode. You're still hearing it because I'm still talking and you're still listening. After this episode, you're going to hear this song in its entirety. No like buffer at the beginning or end. So like if you want to figure out how to download it and just have it forever, you can. Use it for like transitions when kids come in the classrooms, you can. Or not. That might be a terrible idea. But the idea is that like, hear me talk about it. Next episode's going to be about that. And then this is track 7 of 9. So we only have 2 more episodes, 2 of my favorite songs. So I was trying to time this out and take kind of a summer break and then jump in and finish off this project in like the back to school zone. And I think it fits well. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the short song, What Was Who. My name is Bill Selak, and this has been me talking.